Before I introduce you to my next guest today, I want to make sure that you're aware of two new resources to help you to increase your productivity, clarify your purpose, and improve your communication skills. The first one is our Facebook community called Leadership with Purpose. So it's a private community. So go to Facebook groups, search for Leadership with Purpose, and send a request to be invited into the group. There's a few questions for you to answer, and then live to have you a part of that community of other like-minded leaders. Our team is really excited about launching the Next Level Coaching Roadmap. It's a group coaching format, so highly recommend that you check that out and to get your questions answered. If you're a leader that's experiencing any of the following, this is definitely a group format that's going to help you break through to your next level within leadership and your career. So if you have any fear about moving to the next level in your leadership career, this is a group that you'll want to connect with. If you have loss of confidence, if you're kind of confused, like not knowing really how to tap into the hidden job market, if you have a desire to really to grow to the next level, this is definitely a group that you'll want to be able to connect with. If you want to know how to stay calm in a high stress environment, there's going to be strategies, tips, and resources, conversations all around how to develop skills to do just that. So if you want more information, head over to warrenwandling.com/the next level coaching. And in there on that page, you'll notice more information about the coaching roadmap, but also there's a link for you to schedule a phone call with me so we can help really figure out if this is the right fit to helping you take your career to the next level. Okay, again, that's warrenwandling.com/the next level coaching. Welcome back to another episode of How to Become an Obstacle Buster. I'm your host, Warren Wandling, the show that's dedicated helping leaders and entrepreneurs to overcome their obstacles, build resilience, and achieve success. And I have a phenomenal guest with me today to help us do just that. John Mitchell, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, Warren.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this conversation within your knowledge and kind of your experience and your story to really share with our listeners. But as an entrepreneur, success mentor, founder of Think It, Be It, tell us about your business.
Well, I'll give you my basic story. So, I started out as a CPA and became an entrepreneur when I was 30. But Warren, when I was 50, I just wasn't as successful as I thought I should be. And, I had two goals in my life. One was to make enough money so I didn't have to work, and the other one was to find the woman of my dreams. And at 50, unfortunately, I was falling short on both of them. And on the money, I always made 200, $300,000 a year. But at 50, I realized that if I was really going to have the exceptional life I dreamed of, I had to start netting over $1 million a year. And then on the girl, at 50, I'd never been married, although I got to say I did a lot of interviewing. Um, well, I call it interviewing. My friends call it begging, but I prefer interviewing. Anyway, I was just puzzled as to how am I gonna change things? And then probably 3 months after I turned 50, a pearl of wisdom comes to me. Find the top book in the world on success and apply that book literally word for word to my life. Well, immediately as this idea comes to me, I jump out of bed and start doing the research. And I discover to my surprise that there's one book that's been read by over 100 million people. And the next best selling book on success has been read by less than 10 million. And that book is Think and Grow Rich. And I bet you've read it, right?
Yep, I have it right here on my desk. It's pretty torn up.
Right, or good, good. Well, I'm like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And so the next day, I was like a heat-seeking missile. I went to the bookstore and bought the book and read the book. And Warren, then I saw the problem. The book says there's a secret for creating success, but the author only gives you half of the secret. It's on the reader to figure out the other half. So I'm like, oh, great. So, I need the full secret. And so I'm disappointed and I mope around for a couple of weeks. And then one day I just get up and go, John, just man up, figure out the full secret and a practical way to apply it. And so over the next couple of months, I just immersed myself in the book, night and day. And what emerged is I finally figured out the full secret and a 12-minute a day technique to apply it. And so I start applying it to a new business I get in the reverse mortgage field. And quickly my income starts doubling and doubling and doubling to where 4 years later I was netting $5 million a year, which was 25 times what I'd ever made the prior 20 years. And of course, Warren, I felt so blessed. And what was really cool is I could see why it was all happening. I was focused only on what moves the needle. I had tripled my discipline, and I had new ideas coming to my head that just weren't coming in before. And it truly felt like and feels like a superpower because I could just do things I couldn't do before. And I had rewired my autopilot, and that allowed me to take the right actions automatically without thinking. And so I became fascinated by the fact that you could take two key scientific principles and so materially impact a person's success and achievement in life. And so to wrap this up, as I started to sharing this with the world, I met the former chancellor and president at the University of Texas, and he says, "Hey, you got to teach this at Texas, and why don't we teach it together?" So uh, that's what I do. I teach my methodology to high achiever students, but my passion is teaching it to entrepreneurs.
Wow, that's exciting. I'm really looking forward actually to kind of unpack some of that story um, this afternoon, as well as we visit in reference to what you discovered. So,
Good,
so within
good.
within that, obviously you've worked with a lot of different entrepreneurs and leaders. What do you think is the greatest obstacle that your clients encounter?
Oh, absolutely, that they're playing at 10% of their potential. I mean, that's in working with entrepreneurs, and this was me back in my 30s and 40s. I had this nebulous feeling that I'm playing this game of life and this game of being an entrepreneur at 10%, 20% of my potential. But I didn't really know why that was. And then in my 50s, once I figured out the full secret, then it became abundantly clear why.
Wow, that's amazing. And so that's interesting, right? 10% of their potential.
Right,
That's so those that have the energy and the passion to be able to figure that out, they'll probably increase that level, and those that don't will just continue operating at 10%.
right, right. And I tell you, something recently happened to me that was sort of interesting. I did a speech to a group of EO members, entrepreneurs organization, and to be in the organization, as you may or may not know, you have to have a company that grosses over $1 million a year. Now, only about 5% of them net a million, but to be in, you got to gross a million. And so, I tell my story, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna seek their story. So I picked three or four people, and I said, how do you create success in your life? Simple question. How do you create success in your life? Well, every one of them really can't answer that question. Now, they say things, words come out of their mouth, but I'm listening to it and I'm like, they don't know how to create success, just like I didn't know. And, I found that so interesting and that's fundamentally the issue. And in the book, Think and Grow Rich, he talks about the secret and he talks about the formula, the success formula. He never gives it fully to you, and that's what I'm going to give you to your audience here in a minute. But I realized that people don't have a clear understanding of how success works, and that was what was holding me back in my 30s and 40s, and that's why it so radically changed in my 50s.
Wow. So what do you think is the key strategy that contributed to your success while you're building your business? Like prior to
Well,
yeah, discovering maybe the secret, what was that beforehand? Because you had some obviously some energy around figuring it out.
well, I think. I think once I understood why I was operating at 10% rather than 100% was a game changer. And if you don't mind, let me share something a little more personal that really explains this in more detail now that we sort of teed it up. Is that okay with you? So a little something personal.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
So, when I turned 50, there was more going on in my life than just, feeling that scarcity of time. My mom was dying, and she was dying of pancreatic cancer. And she was probably in the hospital in Dallas for like 8 weeks. And so, Warren, every day after work, I'd go see her. I'd go hold her hand, talk to her, and just love on her. And it was everything I could do to keep from breaking down in front of her. And I'd spend, I don't know, 2 hours with her, and then I'd leave and I'd walk out into the cold, dark hospital parking lot, and I'd get in my car and just cry my eyes out. And this goes on for like 8 weeks, just crying my eyes out for about 30 minutes every night before I drive home. Well, obviously I'm feeling the impending loss of my mom, but Warren, I knew there was something deeper going on. And because I'd never experienced this level of emotion, night after night, and it was really excruciating. And what was really going on was I felt like I was letting my mom down with my life. My parents gave me everything they possibly could. They sent me to Jesuit High School in Dallas when they really didn't have the money. And they sent me to the University of Texas and paid for everything. And night after night, I'm sobbing in my car with this horrible feeling I let my mom down. And after all the advantages I had, yeah, I just wasn't making a dent in the world. And all I had was, the average life.
Uh-huh.
And I just hated the average life because I just knew I was capable of so much more. And the pain I felt every night was just gut wrenching. And now keep in mind, this is going on night after night as I'm reading the book Think and Grow Rich. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that pain I was feeling was like rocket fuel and caused me to go deeper and deeper into Think and Grow Rich. And I dare say deeper than any person on the planet ever had to figure out the book's full secret. And so that was sort of the motivation. Does that make sense?
Wow, yeah. Thank you for sharing that story. That's really impactful.
Well, and then, along the same lines during this time, um, I remember one night in particular was really pivotal, and this was truly the night that changed my life forever. And, so this is, I don't know, 4 weeks, 5 weeks into going every night to see my mom. And of course, I go in the parking lot and cry my eyes out for 30 minutes. But Warren, somehow this night felt different because it was snowing. And of course, it doesn't snow very often in Dallas. And so as I'm driving home, yeah, I see the big snowflakes hit my windshield. And I just get this, just things felt different. So when I get home from the hospital, I plop down in my comfy chair and I decide to read a few pages of Think and Grow Rich. And keep in mind this is probably the 10th time I've read the book, and so as I'm digging deep to figure out the full secret, I'm continually reading it. Anyway, I read that night that my success comes down to my daily actions. The cumulative effect of my daily actions determines my success in each area of my life. Well, I buy that. Never thought of it quite like that, but I buy that. And I also read that 95% of my daily actions are unconscious. Interesting. Well, by now, I'm tired and I'm ready to go to bed. So I put the book down and I go wash my face and brush my teeth and I get in my bed. But Warren, I can't stop thinking about what I'd read. And then it hit me. I don't control my daily actions. If 95% of my daily actions are unconscious, then I don't control my daily actions. Yet those unconscious daily actions are the very thing that determines my success in each area of my life. And so this feels like a powerful epiphany, life changing. And I sit up in bed and just think about that as I watch the glistening snowflakes fall in my backyard. And it really feels like a significant moment in my life. And then I realize that I only control my intentions. I know I control something, but what is it? And I realize, oh, I control my intentions. Well, what controls my daily actions? Well, if 95% of them are unconscious, hey, it's your subconscious mind, it's your autopilot. And now the dots are starting to connect with Think and Grow Rich. He talks about auto suggestion, he talks about the subconscious mind, and now it's all starting to come together. And what was holding me back for in my 30s and 40s was my false belief about success. Now I clearly saw how success works. My success is determined by my daily actions. 95% of my daily actions are unconscious. Therefore, my success actually comes down to controlling my autopilot. And it's that epiphany that changed my life. Does that make sense?
Oh wow, yes. Like that's really great explanation in reference to how to control those daily actions is controlling the autopilot of your mind on the some subconscious perspective.
Right. Now let me explain what I discovered was the full secret. Now is that night it didn't completely come to me, but it was powerful because I now saw that controlling my autopilot was the key to creating success. Now at that point I didn't know how to do that, but here's what happened, and I think it happened maybe a week later. Uh, and so I see my mom. I love on my mom. I get home and I start thinking about my life as I lay in bed. And I think about the frustration of working in my 30s and 40s so hard, but not really having anything to show for it. The disconnect between my efforts, my results, and never getting traction. And it was particularly frustrating, Warren, because I worked harder than all my friends, or at least it felt that way. And so as I thought, and then I thought back when I turned 40, I decided, hey, I'm going to take a new approach. And in my 40s, I'm just going to do my best because that's all I could control. And so I was just going to do my best and let the results be whatever they were and just put my head down and work hard. But as I'm thinking about that, now, like a inconvenient truth begins to bubble up. And this one really hurt emotionally. And I saw that for 10 years, hey, I wasn't doing anything close to my best. I wasn't playing full out. I thought I was, but I wasn't even close because if my daily actions are what determine my success and I'm not controlling my autopilot, hey, I've been deceiving myself for years. And, the false
Mm,
belief I
yeah.
had was just that head down, work hard approach was all wrong for decades. And the epiphany that came to me that night was that I was actually playing the game of life at 5 to 10% of my potential. And so doing my best was my identity, and that's why it hurts so much to sort of see, wow, I haven't been doing my best, and so I probably wallow in that pain for 30 minutes, and then that pain morphed into something life changing. The full secret of Think and Grow Rich came to me. I saw that the full secret was this. You ready for it?
Yeah, I'm ready for it. I think our listeners are ready for it as well.
I bet they are. Well, the full secret to Think and Grow Rich is what you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And let me say that again. What you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And I realized then that I had to define exactly the person I wanted to be, exactly what I wanted to accomplish, and precisely how I was going to achieve my clearly defined goals. And so once I understood that, boy, the next day I'm on fire. And over the next 2 weeks, I defined all those things, probably 30 pages of notes. And then I developed after I sort of got that clarity, I developed a key component of the system I was creating, the template. And the template made it all that clarity I created succinct so that it wouldn't take me very long each morning to read it. And the template allowed me to apply all the science of the human mind I'd learned from Think and Grow Rich. And reading each morning was the repetition that Think and Grow Rich says is required to influence the subconscious mind and rewire the autopilot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So within that, because visualization is really a powerful tool and strategy, some listeners might not. They might have heard the strategy. Certainly around sports psychology, a lot is used within that realm. I know that now in the leadership realm and in entrepreneurs that they're embracing more of the power of visualization. Do you have a strategy that you use to help set up that process to make it easy for someone to visualize their goal, their outcome?
Right, and really that's what the template does. And I'll explain sort of how I work with clients. And so basically the way it works is that I take that central concept. What you envision in detail on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And so I get my clients to fill out a a questionnaire. And let back up just a little bit. You know, when I work with clients, my goal is always to double the income they made last year. And if I don't think I can do that, then I won't take them as a client. And I'm so sure it works, I give them a money back guarantee. And my ultimate goal with clients is to take them to netting seven figures a year. And I think that from my standpoint, that's my unique talent, and that clarity of purpose of getting taking entrepreneurs to netting seven figures a year. Uh, that clarity of purpose is a strength, and I see in working with clients, half of my clients already come in netting seven figures a year, and half of them are sort of like me, netting two or $300,000 a year, but want to net seven figures a year. And so when I start working with somebody, it's really three things happen. The first thing that happens is we address those false beliefs, because virtually everybody I work with has the same false beliefs I had. You know, the false belief that I controlled my daily actions. Well, no, you control your intentions. Your autopilot controls your daily actions. So that's sort of the first false belief. Uh, the other false belief is sort of around just what creates success. That it's really simple. It's just the cumulative effect of your daily actions. And oftentimes when I ask that group, that EO group, what creates success, you hear a lot of things about head down, work hard, ambition, sort of nebulous stuff. And people all basically say that, but nobody says, it's just a cumulative effect of my daily actions. So that's sort of the second thing I make them realize. And then the third thing I point out to them, and this is really what makes them realize why they've been playing the game of life at 10% of their potential. I say, listen, if your daily actions determine your success and 95% of them are unconscious, and you're not influencing your unconscious daily actions, of course you're playing at 10% of your potential. That's why you have this nebulous feeling. That's why I had that feeling. And once you cross over and have control over your autopilot, um, it's pretty amazing what happens, because what happens is you experience basically three things. Now keep in mind, what we do is we create that clarity, put the clarity on the template, and then every day you read the template, and it takes 12 minutes a day. And after about 21 days, then your autopilot is rewired, and the right actions start happening automatically without thinking. And but once you do that, once you get about a week or two in, the first thing you realize and you experience is you have this incredible control over your life. which makes sense. You're feeding yourself the succinct articulation of your life every day. Of course you feel control. Well, the second thing you feel is confidence because that's directly related to that sense of control. Oftentimes entrepreneurs get up and they're stressed, they're frazzled. Well, completely the opposite experience when you're doing this. It's 1,000 times better way to operate where you're laser focused on what moves the needle and you feel virtually no stress. Again, that control factor. And then, like I said, the third thing you experience after about 21 days uh, is all of a sudden uh, you start taking the right actions automatically without thinking. And it happens like a light bulb will go on in your head about 3 weeks out, and you'll start noticing it. And then the game of playing life is way easier.
Wow. Thank you for walking us through. I love the with clarity of identifying those false beliefs because I really believe that we all hold on self false beliefs, but that's great for leaders to be able to like the false belief that you're not controlling your daily actions.
Right,
Like that is like just a key strategy to be able to make that self awareness that that's the key false belief that you have to release
right.
and start changing.
Well, I'm glad you picked up on that because it's funny. You hear things and people, we live in this world where so much is coming at us. We hear things, but do we really absorb them? And I think what you just did is so valuable to make people realize this is life changing, truly life changing. If you come to grips with that 95% of your daily actions are unconscious, then it's obvious. I mean, pure math. You got to control those unconscious daily actions. And, sometimes when I'm working with clients, they come in and go, I don't know about that. Really? I don't think it's 95%. Well, if you Google what percentage of my daily actions are unconscious in big dark letters,
Right.
it says 95%. And so, I'm really glad you pointed that out because that's the main thing I want your audience to get that that's true and that there's a way to influence them.
Yeah, thank you for your clarity. Like giving specific strategies for our listeners to be able to take action specifically to start getting different results.
Right, right. I'll give you an example of this. I think your audience would understand this better now that they understand the framework. Like I said, when I tell my story, it feels like a superpower, and this happened like a few months ago. Back last Christmas, I go to see one of my clients who was in San Antonio. I'm in Austin. He was in San Antonio with his girlfriend. He actually is up in Portland, but I'm like, I'm going to go catch up with him, and so I tell my wife, let's go to San Antonio and have dinner with him. And so, again, it's around Christmas, and I tell my wife to meet me at Starbucks. And so I get there a little early, and she's not quite there. And I decide to have a brownie. Well, I start eating that brownie and I notice it's not very good, but I keep on eating it. And in my daily visualization, I would affirm to myself that I'm aware of everything I put in my mouth. Okay, I'm aware of it. I'm aware it doesn't taste very good, but again, I finish it, and then the Ginge arrives, and we jump in my car and we drive to San Antonio. And I just notice I don't feel very good, and I've lost my appetite. And so when I get home, Warren, I change one word on my visualization. Instead of I'm aware of everything I put in my mouth, I put I evaluate everything I put in my mouth. Well, the next night we decide to go have Mexican food with her son. So we go have dinner. I order tacos. Tacos come and they're not very good. But now I'm evaluating everything I put in my mouth instead of just being aware of it. And I slide those tacos away and I don't have another bite. And that all happens automatically. I'm not even thinking about it. That's happening automatically. And that night, as I'm laying in bed, I'm like, boy, if that doesn't show you, if that's not an example of a superpower, I don't know what is. When you can make the right things happen automatically without thinking, and that's a health example, but it happens in your business, happens in your marriage, and this heightened level of control is why now you can play the game of life at 100% of your potential.
Right, because you're self-aware, but you also made that adjustment, right? You changed that one word, you took action, changed the one word, and to be able to start programming those habits that you want, that's going to direct your path towards the goal that you're trying to achieve.
Right, right. And I think the key point too is, you create clarity, but clarity is a continual process. Keep in mind, I've been doing this a long time, and that little tweak just happened, what, 7 or 8 months ago. Well, maybe that's the point, is that once you go down this rabbit hole of clarity and creating clarity in your life, you know, uh, it's a powerful and wonderful thing to experience. And what this really is more than anything else is a simple success formula. And that's what I think is a challenge for most people, is having a success formula that they believe in, that they can apply to their life. And like I said, it affects all aspects of your life.
Right. So I'm kind of curious. Why do you think the author of Think and Grow Rich didn't only gave really like only the half of the secret? Why do you think you're the first one that I've heard that really have discovered the secret and to be able to articulate it?
That's a great question. It's funny. Warren, I just read Think and Grow Rich again for the first time about 3 or 4 weeks ago,
Mhm.
which is really interesting to have that perspective of reading it from where I am now versus 20 years ago. And I think the reason he did it is that, keep in mind, it was a lot different world back then,
Uh-huh.
and he didn't want to give the secret to everybody. He wanted to give it to the people that were really driven to dig and figure it out for themselves. And but in this modern world we live in, uh, we're naturally prone to be sort of shallow in how we deal with things, maybe because we have so much coming at us, and that's why uh, he did it. And as great as Think and Grow Rich is, he did not give a practical way to apply it, and I think that's what hopefully I have brought to the table with what I've created.
Yeah, exactly. It's very clear. And so that's the so what you just shared then, John, just to clarify, is what are the two scientific discoveries that affect people's achievement in life?
Well, I would say it's really three. One of them is that 95% of your daily actions are unconscious. That's one of them. The second one is that we are innately wired for survival. And think about this. The fact that we're innately wired for survival causes 90% of our thoughts to be fear based. We're reactive rather than proactive on our important agenda. Both those things are great if survival, daily survival, is the biggest thing on your that you're dealing with. But it happens to be exactly the opposite of how you want to be if you want to be productive, creative, and happy. And so the fact that 95% of your daily actions are unconscious, and you're wired to be uh, fear-based and reactive, the effect of that is that when you open your eyes each morning, you're on autopilot most of the day, and you're gearing to be reactive and fear-based. And the only way you can have a higher level of success is to overlay programming with your new morning routine that gears you to success rather than to failure.
So then, in your opinion, then why is that 12 minute day technique that you've developed really gives that driven person the advantage in life. And leaders are always looking for the edge. So what do you think is in your opinion, the secret?
Well, the secret, said another way, is create immense clarity, feed it to yourself every day, and after 3 weeks, your autopilot gets rewired, and as you're feeding that to yourself every day, you start taking the right actions automatically without thinking. That's the essence of the secret. And I love that you said the edge, because I look at it this way. Um, to be successful in life, you have got to have an edge. You've got to have something that gives you an edge or an advantage. I did not have that in my 30s and 40s. And when I got this in my 50s, I saw what an advantage this is. And some of your audience will go, "Well, how is this different than everything else in the human achievement field?" And the answer to that is that everything else is strategies. And Warren, oftentimes, really good strategies. But hey, you got strategies coming out your ears. The last thing you need is another great strategy. What you actually need is to make great strategies show up in your thoughts and actions automatically without thinking. And that's what this does. And that's what makes it different. And I think that in terms of me as a business coach, um, I see that typically I have probably 20 years more experience than my clients. And when I started netting 7 figures a year, one of the things I discovered is that there were like 7 key habits that were required to net 7 figures a year. And so my program is what I call mentoring plus methodology. I teach them those 7 habits, and then the methodology makes those 7 habits show up automatically without thinking. And that's I think what sets our program apart from everybody else.
Wow, interesting. That's an interesting framework around the 7 habits and the keys, because then you tie it right into your formula, that 12 minute a day, and that then drives it automatically.
Right. I give you an example. One of those habits is focusing on what moves the needle. And I have a client that is in the mini warehouse storage facility business, and he comes on, and he was one of the ones coming in netting a couple $1 million. And so he comes in, and I start working with him, and I ask him, "So what moves the needle?" And he's thinking about that, and he tells me, he says, "Well, I think what moves the needle is getting properties I acquire, getting them leased up, and starting producing income." Well, I'm like, "Yeah, I don't think that's what really moves the needle." And I asked him, I said, "Well, what do you think your special talent is?" And he says, "Well, I can see opportunities in storage that other people can't see." And so I go, I think what moves the needle is getting more properties in your evaluation pipeline, and putting metrics around that. And to me, that's what moves the needle. Well, he took that one idea and moved from making 2 million a year to $4 million a year, mainly from that one idea. But one of the things I see is that sometimes people are too close to see what moves the needle. Uh, uh, Not that I have some magic power, but the fact that I'm 20 years more experienced than they are, oftentimes that in combination with being a third party, I can see things they can't see. And so that's sort of the power, I think, of what I do is I can mentor them in a way that will take them to netting 7 figures a year, and then I can make the right actions happen automatically with the methodology.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great clarity in reference to giving clients, the listeners that are interested in engaging you with you in more of your coaching practice and training. That gives them a great framework to know that the specifics of how you guarantee your success. I can see now why you can guarantee what you teach and train based on that formula. So,
Right.
leadership is influence. What's one of the top strategies that you share with your clients to increase their results?
Well, just controlling their daily actions.
Yeah,
But
and which is
I
really
mean,
key, right? I know we've talked about that this afternoon, but that really is key, right? In reference to getting, instead of going to a different strategy, that right there is
well,
what they need to focus
right,
on.
right. And I think, and we sort of hit on it just a second ago. If you're controlling your daily actions, and you're clear about what moves the needle, uh, I found, and my clients find, that all of a sudden they are focused myopically on what moves the needle in their business, whereas they're scattered, they're on this or on that, and I just slow them down. I'm like, whoa, and I discovered this. When I had 175 employees and we were doing 25 million gross and 5 million net, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm going to let my people worry about most of this stuff. There's only two or three things that are moving the needle. That's all I'm going to focus on. So my life's going to be pretty simple. And once you have that approach and you understand what moves the needle and you have a methodology that makes it happen automatically, that's the game changer.
Right, exactly. So I think success leaves clues, and one of those clues are the books that you read. So other than Think and Grow Rich, are there other books that have influenced you?
Yeah, psycho-cybernetics.
Oh
Have you
yes.
ever heard of
Oh yeah.
psycho?
Phenomenal book.
You know, uh, I, it's interesting. So many of my clients now ask me to teach their kids this, a simplified version of this, and I teach what I call is leadership of self, and it's based on four books: Think and Grow Rich, obviously, and the Success Formula; Psycho-Cybernetics, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. You know, that's the essence of leadership of self. And I see that so many people today struggle because nobody ever taught them leadership of self. They didn't learn it in school. Their parents didn't understand it, and so now that's sort of the new uh, evolution with what I'm doing is, and it came from all my clients wanting me to teach it to their kids.
Wow, that's awesome. Those are all great books, and our listeners, if they have not read any of those books, those are definitely something that you need to add to your list. Or if you listen to Audible. But those are definitely books that you need to add to your library.
Right. One other thing that's worth mentioning is, do you know who Darren Hardy is?
Oh yes.
So and this probably happened 4 years ago. I decided, if I was going to share the rest of my life sharing what I discovered with the world, I wanted to go to the top expert in the world on success and have him or her tell me if there was anything, if there were any flaws in it, or if there's something similar. And so, in my opinion, that person is Darren Hardy. So I write a big check and I spend 3 days with Darren out in California, and I, show him my template and explain how it works. And he goes, John, people aren't going to spend 12 minutes a day on this. He says, I love what you created, but most people are not going to spend 12 minutes a day on this. And I go, well, Darren, how the heck can that be? At 25x my income, Time Magazine did a cover story on the science behind our methodology, and we're applying the top book in the world on success to people's lives. I mean, what do you mean they're not going to spend 12 friggin' minutes a day on this? And he goes, John, the dirty little secret in the success and human achievement field is that most people won't do anything to impact their success in life, because more success is merely a preference. He says you only need to show this to driven people. And Warren, when he's told that to me, I should have listened harder, but what he was so true. on that, and I discovered because I thought every entrepreneur was just like me. If you had the courage of being an entrepreneur, you certainly wanted to be, highly successful and probably net a million a year. Not to sound too materialistic, but I thought everybody's like that. And what I've discovered is that only 2% of people are that way. And that has been really surprising to me. Do you find that surprising?
That is really surprising because if you're going to step out and be in the entrepreneur space, that you would think that you are already driven, resilient, passionate, do whatever it takes. Uh, so that is really surprising.
And the 12 minutes a day is easy,
Mhm.
but what is hard is creating the clarity. And when we first did this, I created an online course, and it didn't involve one-on-one mentoring, and I saw that people couldn't create sufficient clarity on their own to properly influence their subconscious mind. Because here's the thing that most people don't realize: Think and Grow Rich, the top book in the world on success, is all about manipulating your subconscious mind to take the right actions, and that's it in a nutshell. And that's the simplicity of it, is the power of that. And but to influence the subconscious mind, you've got to create this clarity, and the clarity has to be both succinct and it's got to be specific. If you feed stuff to your subconscious mind that's not specific, it doesn't know what to do with that. It's got to be specific. And I found that without the mentoring component, one-on-one mentoring, people couldn't do it on their own.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, this has been a great wealth of information that you've shared with our audience today. Really appreciate you sharing those strategies to really help our those listeners to get those results that they're looking for.
Good.
So, if I know our listeners would love to be able to connect. So, what's the best way for them to be able to reach out and connect with you, John?
Well, Warren, I got a special gift for your audience.
Okay,
Now,
awesome.
for everybody that has been listening, I think what you'll see is that for the people that are truly driven, this will be life changing. And for the rest that are not driven, which is okay, they will have found this interesting. But if you found this life changing, and you want a deeper understanding of this in terms of how to double your income by influencing your autopilot, just text the word autopilot, one word, autopilot, to 55444. So again, just text the word autopilot to 55444. And I have a special gift that'll really get into much deeper detail about how this works and why it works.
Well, excellent. I'll make sure that is also in the show notes as well.
Okay, great. Great.
Is a website or something else, or is that the best way just to?
Well, I'm glad. Thank you for. I forgot. Um, the website is thinkitbeeit.com.
Okay.
Thinkitbeeit.com.
Perfect. And I'll make sure that's also in the show notes.
Good. Good.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you so much, John, for sharing your strategies, tips, and actually specific um, steps for our leaders to be able to overcome their obstacles and achieve success.
Well, and thank you. And could I share? Can I tell you one final story as we wrap this up?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Not too long ago, I became a grandfather, and so I go over to uh, my stepdaughter's house, and it's like literally the day after she has the baby, and Ginger's with me, and we're there, and for some reason they hand this little baby boy to me, and they walk away. So I'm holding this 1 day old baby, and Warren, tears start coming down my face because I realize how precious life is. And I'm thinking he's going to live to be 100 years old. And what he makes of his life is going to be determined by him grabbing a hold of his life and making it what he wants. and also how he impacts his daily mindset. And of course, I'm going to teach him the simple formula for creating success, whatever that may mean for him. But the reason I share that is because to the audience, your life is precious. Your life is precious, but you got to step up and grab a hold of it and make it what you want. And it was so enlightening for me to understand why I was playing at 10% of my potential and how to play it at 20. I mean, how to play at 100% of your potential. And just watch what happens when you take your precious life and play at your full potential.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that story. That's so impactful that there's a reason and a purpose for them to be able to live that out, and you've helped the
Right,
audience to do just that.
right.
Well, thank you again, John. I appreciate you
Okay.
being on the show and really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, this has been great. I loved it.
Well, until next time, this is your host, Warren Wandling, saying, be an obstacle buster.